Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Beginning to Open Up Ideas for Colleges Early in their OER journey. Before we start, I want to thank Brandon and the Open Ed Committee for creating and putting on this conference. They've been doing lots of work over many months, so I just want to thank them for that. My name is Paula Michniewicz, and I will be the facilitator for this panel today. My main job is instructional designer at the College of Southern Nevada in Las Vegas, Nevada. But I also am the co-chair of the CSN OER task force, so I wear different hats while I'm here. I'm also a member of the CCC OER membership committee, and we're going to talk a little bit about CCC OER later on as a possible organization you may want to get involved in. So at the end of this, we hope you have maybe one new strategy that you can try at your institution after you hear from everyone. We have a Word document of resources for you to get you started in your resource world for OER. You're going to meet others, so hopefully in the chat you may want to see who else is here and maybe someone in your state or other institutions that you want to connect with, and you'll also have the opportunity to ask us questions. So what we're going to do first is we're going to first meet the panel. So I am going to let them introduce themselves.
Good morning. My name is Ron Belbin. As you can see, I'm the Director of Learning and Innovation, Western Nevada College in Carson City, Nevada, the other end of the state from Paula. We are a college that serves a fairly rural community. We've got about 3,800 students, and my responsibilities include the libraries, our academic coaching program, our testing program, and professional development, as well as oversight of our online teaching program.
Hello, I am Theresa Flett. I am the Director of Library Services at St. Charles Community College in Kalluvila, Missouri. We are just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. So we're kind of a suburban community college, I would say. We're about 3,000 FTE, so we're fairly small. And I have been at the community college for about 25 years.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Thomas Kalluvila. I am a faculty member at the Milwaukee Area Technical College. We are located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The college has 4 campuses, and we serve around 25,000 students per year. And I teach anatomy physiology. I also chair the open access team of the college, leading the OER activities of the college. Thank you.
So as you see here, we have a variety of institutions. We have rural, we have urban, we have suburb. We have different people that are represented. We have a faculty, we have some library, we have some administration. So again, maybe you can connect to one of us and be able to ask more questions directly to us. So we wanted to have a wide variety. So now what we're going to do is we are going to start our first question. And I just want to share with you, if you want to, while you're, you might have a question, you can just type it in the chat, and I'll be looking at the chat. And after each question, we may be able to get 1 or 2 questions in and have more at the end. So basically, the first thing I'd like to ask everyone here is, how did your institution start your OER initiative?
So I will jump in here. Last year, it's getting on for 15, 16 months ago now, one of our administrators wanted to join the American Association of Colleges and Universities Institute for OERs, and to do so, we had to have a working group of representatives of the stakeholders across the college. And we submitted our application, and once we were accepted, I was designated as the lead for that. At that time, I was not particularly familiar with OERs. I'll confess that right up front. But over the course of the year, I've learned a lot. So we started off from a point of fairly low experience and low knowledge of OERs. But throughout the past year, we've been exposed to a lot of ideas. We've tried some tactics of our own. We've involved our faculty and our administration, and we've seen some success, which I can share with you a little bit later, as a result of the conversations, the tactics that were employed, and getting our faculty involved in the last 12 to 15 months. So that joining the AACU Institute was really our leaping off point. And the great thing about it was that it provided us with regular touch points, it provided us with guidance, and it provided us with some kind of structure, as well as providing us with mentors.
Do you want me to go ahead?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my phone rang right in the middle of that. That's kind of strange. Okay, so the community college in 2016-ish here did start a digital task force that put together some guides for open educational resources. So it was kind of thought about way back then. That was done by one of our instructional designers, and she left the college. So like a lot of initiatives, sometimes it's tied to a person, so it kind of dropped. But then there were some departments that had adopted OERs on our campus, the sociology department, and then some psychology classes in 2019 or so. But I had attended some training through the Open Education Network, through our membership in that, through membership in a library consortium across the state. And I got some training there and some exposure to open educational resources, but didn't have a lot of time to do much about it. But then COVID hit, and of course that was an impetus for a lot of us, I'm sure, to move into this area a little bit. So I kind of just took it upon myself to start a task force, or to ask to start a task force. So I had a new vice president of academic affairs who was supportive, and she said, "Go ahead, start a task force." So I pulled together some people that had some experience in it, some faculty that had a little bit of experience in it, just people that might be interested. I kind of put out an open call. I have been here at the college for 25 years, like I said, so I had some existing relationships with people I kind of tapped into. I did pull in the bookstore manager, who's very supportive of open educational resources as well. So we started meeting, I would say fall of 20, but we kind of started out with a faculty survey to see where everybody was on campus. But our first really big OER workshop was in January of 2021. I also got a little bit of funds for funds for some stipends for faculty. So that kind of helped a little bit in the summer. We've had 4 adoptions since then. And I would say a big thing for me was joining the Regional Leaders of Open Education program through CCC OER. It's really jump-started things for me. And I've also pulled in another person to kind of take on the main job of really keeping the ball rolling as far as our OER adoptions. And so it helps if you can, like for me, since my position as director of library services, this is kind of an add-on type of situation, which I know a lot of us are also in, but it has helped to have somebody else carry some of the main load of the initiative here on campus. So trying to get a more permanent committee set up as opposed to a task force, but we've been starting off pretty good.
Hey everyone, again, Milwaukee Area Technical College, we have, like I mentioned before, 25,000 students per year, and we serve around 170 plus associate degree certificates program for campuses. It's a big college here in Milwaukee. And I have been teaching anatomy and physiology for the last 15 years. And the textbook of my course, the price always goes up, 250, 300, 350. So back in 2018, I heard about this movement, new movement, OER. So I personally looked around and we didn't have any resources at the college. I reached out to our Wisconsin Technical College system and learned more about OER. And I was able to go to the 2019 Open Ed conference in Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I met people who had similar interest and who are teaching anatomy and physiology with OER. So I brought that experience back to the college. That's when we hit with the pandemic. So the college then initiated this new pathway system. I don't know how many of you guys have that. This is called guided pathway system. So we divided the departments into 8 guided pathways. And the president of the college, she learned about this movement and put a goal for 2025, 50% of the courses using OER. So we put together an open access team at the college, and I was able to serve as the chair of the open access team. I have been doing that for a while now, and we are looking for a full-time OER coordinator because again, as a faculty, I have other commitments. So I took this as a personal interest and established an open access team. The first thing that we did was branding the OER movement at MATC with a specific email address to the OER movement. So we created OER at matc.edu. Then we created an emblem for the OER movement. So we reached out to different pathways. Meanwhile, we had one big step that really helped us to exponentially grow this movement was we didn't have part-time faculty. We didn't have enough courses for them to teach during pandemic. So administration came up and reached out to us. It's like, do you guys have anything? So it's like, yeah, we are looking for faculty to support faculty. That was kind of a new thing for us. So as everybody knows, the change or adoption of OER happens at the faculty level. So if faculty doesn't show that interest, it's very hard to sell. So we hired 8 part-time faculty, and the college was able to fund for that. And we created a facilitator position for each faculty. So faculty supporting the OER movement at individual guided pathway level. So when faculty talks about OER to other faculty, it really created an impact. So we were able to do some faculty OER grants, and we were able to do OER series, workshops. So we did so many activities during last couple of years. So that has created an impact on our college, and we are really moving forward with this movement and learning so many new things. And I'm happy that I could share that experience with you today.
Great, thank you, everyone. Before I get to some questions, I did want to kind of review some of these ideas. So you may want to do a partnership with somebody. So we mentioned Arlo, we mentioned AACU. So just to let you know, on the resource page on the website in SHED has those information that if you want more information of being a partnership with some different OER people that can help you, that is a possibility you can do. Some people talked about funding, different ways of funding. Thomas talked about funding for part-time faculty. Theresa talked about funding that she was able to pay faculty wanting to try OER. I like the idea about branding, about surveying your faculty and your students to find out where we are with this. So these are all these different ideas to kind of help you on wherever you are in your journey. So we do actually have some questions. So Theresa, we have here that they're interested in hearing a little bit more about the partnership with the bookstore. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you do with the bookstore?
Sure. So one of the things I mentioned is before I decided to kind of push maybe an organized task force for this idea, the sociology department had adopted OpenStax textbook, and the psychology department, quite a few sections were using open source material. So our bookstore is already familiar with the concept and with supporting faculty that chose that option. And so when I started the task force, I really wanted to reach out to, I did not realize how much or how little they knew of what OER was and how they would respond to the request to be on the task force. You know, was it I didn't feel like it was going to be adversarial, but you never know. So I was a little nervous reaching out, but actually he's the director that is very supportive. And part of it is because, he had already had some dealings with faculty wanting to move in this direction. And he's always just, students first type of a situation. So that was nice for me. And I felt a lot better having him on the task force because his contribution's been really helpful, especially because we haven't been able to, one of the things we'd like to do is to have students understand that there's no cost when they register for classes, but he does, when students go to look up books for a particular class, he makes it clear that it's a no cost option that when faculty choose an OER for their textbook. So he's been great in that way. So it's not so much a partnership with him, although I mean, it's a partnership as far as it's a mutual goal for us all. So yeah, that helps.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so that is a group we forget about, and it's not always an easy thing because some bookstores don't want to talk about this, but it is an idea to start some conversations with your bookstore. So actually, Theresa, there is another question for you.
Sure.
So they were curious on, you had mentioned some funding. They were wondering how the faculty stipends were used.
Okay, so yeah, I got a small amount of money that I got to use. It was help during COVID. I think it was some funds that I could tap into. It's not a large amount. We're not a huge college, but I took that to the task force that I have, which again was librarians, faculty, and bookstore. And then and so I took it to them and said I wanted to do something to at least sort of maybe jumpstart some faculty thinking about it, because it's so much work and so much of a time commitment to ask to do this work for them. So it was just a little bit of a recognition. So I used some other schools' templates about what they had done. I wanted to make it really easy for faculty to fill out the form to receive the stipend. I also didn't want to get into trying to judge, what the sources that they were using too much. So we did make it had to be an actual open educational resource. It couldn't just be moving from a textbook to a bunch of web links. So that was a requirement. And then we had different levels. So it was 300. It is 300 if they adopt an OER for their course. And then it's a step up if it's for a department. And then it's a step up if they are authoring anything. And then I brought any submissions back to the task force to just look through, make sure everything was okay. And then provided them the money, and it had to be, they had to have already identified what they were going to be using before they filled out the information for the stipend. So it wasn't something where I gave them money to develop it. It was going to be more after the fact, after they've already chosen it. And then we require a survey at the end of each semester to survey their students on how they felt about using the resource.
Great, thank you. So Katie, I'm just going to wait on your question because I think that'll be a good closing topic. And I was going to actually move to our next question that I want to stay a little positive before we get into some of the people that don't want to do it. So can you share, the panel, can you share an accomplishment that you had with your OER this past year, and what helped you with this accomplishment? Was it resources? Was it money? Was it a combination of things? So I just want to have some positives and what helped you get there so people can get ideas on where to get some help.
So for us, I'll tell you the story of the accomplishment, and maybe that'll give you some background. We surveyed our faculty very early on. It was one of the first things that we did. And again, being pretty inexperienced and unsure of what was going on across the campus, we were excited to discover that, in fact, there were pockets of OER use going on campus anyway. that nobody was really aware of, apart from the students who were really enjoying the benefit of the OERs in their class. So that was one of the first encouraging mile markers that we had. And then we brought those faculty who had been using OERs to this point into presentations, and they provided guidance for others who would like to explore further. And as a result of that, we were able to begin conversations with our English department and our English 100, English 101, English 102 program, who had been having their own conversations about OERs, but hadn't really been able to commit to the OERs because they felt that they were working in unknown territory. They didn't feel that they had support. And so once we realized that we had this block of faculty that were essentially primed, and if you like, low-hanging fruit, but they were primed for that tipping point, we focused in very closely on them. And so for this current semester, for the first time, that entire block of classes from our English department is being taught using using OERs, which has resulted in, I think, 1,300 students with about $130,000 worth of savings to them. So that was a great accomplishment for us that happened very quickly. We hadn't really anticipated that progress happening quite so soon. But I think it represents that there is interest in OER amongst faculty. And if you can provide them with support and make it as easy for them, there will be a positive response. And so bringing in our English faculty was certainly our accomplishment for the year.
I can kind of piggyback on Ron's statement. So we had the same type of a scenario in our college. So faculty were using OER before unknowingly. So one example would be a second chance Pell program. So where we have courses for incarcerated population. So they were not able to have the physical textbook. So we were supposed to use OER. And kind of when this movement came up, people started talking about OER. Oh, I already use this. So that really, gave us the momentum. So a couple of things that we did, like Paula said, it was a combination of different things. So we developed a course, faculty training course for faculty on OER. We just named as Exploring OER or OER 101, that we provided some grants for faculty who take this course. It was $200. If you take this course and complete it successfully, you will get that $200. So that really helped faculty to take this course and learn about OER. So that was one of the things, and we reached out to the library, and the library were able to help us to create an OER webpage where faculty could go and learn about OER, find resources and get help. So that really helped. And most importantly, the faculty-driven approach where faculty supports faculty, word of mouth. So people were talking about OER. And when we did one approach where somebody asked the same question too. So how did you reach out to faculty? And it's about education. You cannot make a big change in one department in one day. It is a slow process, So we allowed the faculty to pilot courses. For example, let's say your department doesn't allow you to change the textbook all of a sudden. What we did, we were able to, allow them to one course be on OER, so that faculty can experience, okay, how does this work? So then once they run that course on OER one semester, so they can, provide that experience to the rest of the faculty in the department. That really helped. And most importantly, faculty grants, we have been giving that grants for last 2 semesters, that also helped.
Yeah, so I would say for the past year, the accomplishment, I'm bringing up Arlo again, our Regional Leaders of Online Education, because it really helped me jumpstart or kind of solidify some things. And so one of the things you work on is a strategic plan, which is and it also helped me bring in my colleague that is the Dean of Online Learning. And so I feel like the momentum's from that has really helped because I felt a little stalled. As far as like specific accomplishments, so this spring we got our first student survey results back, and they were really, really good. So that was also a nice push, and it's nice to have those student voices from the evaluation to share with the teachers that adopted the OERs, but also with faculty that are maybe considering it. But actually just not too long ago, in the spring I had presented to our Student Government Association, but it was online and it was just kind of a quick presentation, but I had them actually reach out to me once the fall semester started and want to start talking, having a discussion about maybe passing a resolution or maybe just looking into it more from officially through the Student Government Association. So I was really, really excited about that because I'd like to get more student involvement in the process, and because I feel like it could also start moving more past just open educational resources into open education and generally, and trying to make changes and more broadly than just the textbook as far as how classes are run. So the student involvement has been really exciting for me.
Great, thank you. Again, lots of different perspectives, faculty support, whole department doing things, helping others. I love the OER course that's how you get helping people know more about this. So so Emily talked about surveys, and I just wanted to throw in there that you may want to have a baseline. That's what we did when we first started, was we just wanted a baseline of how many people even know about this. And then that's what we focused on, was just teaching people about it. So Emily, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that right away you're going to have a lot. And Ron knows that I was able to do another survey 3 years later, and I was going, oh, look at all these things we did, and now look at how many more people know about it and how many more people are using it. So surveys are a great way to do a baseline. So Ron, I don't know if you were wanting, we do have a question for you. How did you learn about faculty who were using OER in order to bring them together?
So the director who initiated this project was aware in his department of several faculty that had been using it. He was aware of a couple, I think, that were using My Math Lab and some other OERs for in the math department. We brought a couple of those faculty in to the workforce, the task force, and another one from physics and one from English. We hadn't realized that the English faculty were already looking at OERs at the time. So from that perspective, we were rather lucky. But the key piece is always going to be the faculty involvement. It's always got to be faculty that can, there can be no requirements that the faculty are going to have to use OERs. It's got to be their choice, and it's got to be a faculty-driven process. So we had a couple of early adopters there as part of our team, which was useful. We're a relatively small college, so they in turn were aware of conversations that were going on throughout their colleagues. So they were then able to use our survey, which asked for information about who was actually using OERs, what the experience levels were with OERs, what the attitudes were to OERs, to use that survey as that icebreaker. I saw somebody use that word in the chat. So the survey itself was that icebreaker that allowed the early adopters to have wider informal conversations on campus. And then we offered some workshops, some information sessions, and we brought more and more faculty in. Some demonstrated very early on that they weren't interested and they never would be interested. Others were kind of sitting on the edge, while others were more committed and more interested And those we were able to bring in, as I say, with the English faculty. So I hope that answers the question. That the survey itself was a conversation starter.
So yeah, I was going to ask Thomas and Theresa, are there any other ideas about icebreakers? Because someone was asking that, how do you have, what icebreaker do you have to get faculty interested in talking about this? Do you have any other ideas you want to share with some icebreakers?
I can go first. So it's the constant presence of communication from all levels. So what we do at our college is we have a weekly, the week ahead, kind of a focus letter from the college. So we make sure that we put some type of information about OER every week. So let's say it's a conference, or it's a series, or it's a webinar. So we join during early stages, we join CCC OER. So if anything happens at the CCC OER, we kind of advertise it. So we make sure that in our meetings, for example, fall meetings, so we have all these faculty come together, or spring meeting, what we do is we take around 1 to 2 minutes and we show some videos from students' perspective of OER. So how does students see this, So we always try to have some constant presence of OER and convey that message to the faculty. It's kind of, so providing them that opportunity to talk. Also, like I said, the facilitators, whenever they can, they go to the department meetings and they talk about OER. So that really helped us.
I would say that I received some good advice at some point. I remember somebody was saying that sometimes you can approach faculty from a different way to move into OER. So if you look at it like, if you want to increase, instead of like pushing free textbooks, you can say, do you want to have more control over your course content? Do you want to have more control over or more flexibility as far as what topics you teach within your course, kind of coming at it like, these are the advantages, not only to your students, which should be important, but also these are the advantages to you as a faculty member, how you can really customize your course and how OERs help in that way. So it's kind of coming at it from that direction can kind of help. I think part of the question was, as librarians, we're used to people coming to us. So I will say, as a librarian, we're not faculty on our campus. So sometimes it is hard for us to have opportunities to speak with other faculty about OER and the advantages. So I do try to get always in their in-service schedule, which is their professional development before classes start. I always try to get into that. And then I do advertise as much as possible things that we find, like Thomas said, advertise all the conferences, all the webinars, and then really targeting faculty in a particular area. So if you see something come over listserv, a new textbook that just came out, or a webinar that is very tailored to a particular discipline, that you can tap just those faculty. So it's not a blanket, this is where we are. So if you could say, hey, I saw this new textbook came out, you might want to look at it, or this is a webinar that speaks just to using my open source math tools, maybe you want to take a look at that and target faculty that way.
I think also one of the things that we did when we were having our conversations, both sort of the informal conversations and a presentation, we were looking for those faculty who would say, yes, I'm kind of interested in OER, but there's nothing out there of any quality for my course or my courses. And we always tried to rise to that challenge specifically for that faculty member and provide them with one or more options for them to look at, because that always indicates to me that somebody's thought about it. So we had a geology professor who'd been using the same the same textbook for many, many years. She loved it, but it was no longer published. I don't know how she was using it, but we were able to find her an alternative, and she hasn't adopted it yet, but we're hoping for it.
So what I'm going to do, instead of going to the last question, because I think the last question can be wrapped up with some of these other questions. So Katie asked earlier, how have you faced resistance from other faculty or within a department? Which is something, our last question, just to let you know, was share something you wished you knew. So maybe to help people with the resistance, does anybody want to share some ideas they have on how you helped along if people were resistant?
I think I can talk about that as a faculty, So, I mean, if you have a course and you have a textbook publisher and you are in your comfort zone, you have the online resources, you have the assignments, you have the tests. So that's easy. So you go there and use those materials, and nothing wrong about it, So, but OER, it takes some effort, So you need to find out that quality material. You need to find out the ancillary material. It's time consuming. So like I said, what we did, we allowed the faculty to pilot, and so that one faculty can run the course on OER, and they can share their feedback to the rest of the faculty. And I can conclude the most important thing is, let's say we talk about faculty currently present at your institution. How about a new faculty? What we did, we wanted to show that our institution follow a culture of OER. So you want to show that. So how did we do that? So we incorporated some required training when they onboard through our HR. So we added a lesson or resources on OER. So they have to go through that and learn about OER. It's a very brief, activity. So that's showing that this institution is taking this seriously, and that runs in our culture. So that kind of helped our faculty the new faculty to learn about OER and learn that, okay, this institution is serious about OER.
I think also for any institution that is early in this process, one of the things you might want to do is to make a distinction between resistance and reluctance. If you had somebody, and we had responses to our survey that said, I will never use OERs. Early on, don't worry about that. If people are reluctant, they may be more likely to be persuaded by the benefits of OERs to themselves and to students. So if you're encountering heavy resistance amongst a certain section of faculty, let them be. You will have enough to get your program off the ground with those who are interested or mildly reluctant. Look for those low-hanging fruit. Look for those faculty who have a genuine commitment to the well-being of students, who are interested in improving their pedagogy, improving the chances and opportunities for their students. But if you're going to encounter a faculty member, let's say they've been teaching for 25 years and using the same textbook and don't ever want to change it, let them be. Maybe they'll come around in a couple of years, but you'll have a lot to do with those who are already interested.
I was going to say the exact same. Oh, sorry. I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm glad you said it first, but I was going to say ignore them. There's plenty of other people that are interested, and we'll get the ball rolling. And kind of speaking to that is, go for new faculty, go for new courses, because those things you're not starting, you're not changing something, you're starting from scratch.
So what I was going to do is I'm just going to show the last slide, because I want to remind people that we have a Word document with resources so you can download it. For those of you that are new that may not even know where to start with open textbooks, we have a few links on where to find open textbooks that are already written and they can adopt just like a publisher textbook. We do have professional development, both for yourself to learn more about OER. Also, we've been talking about partnerships and things to get involved with other people, because that's one thing that I think all of us realize, that you're not out there by yourself, and there's a lot of stuff out there already, so don't reinvent the wheel. And we also have our contact information, so if any of you want to contact us. So we are at 12:40. I will keep staying on. Brandon, I'm not sure how long we get to hang out here. Brandon says, unfortunately, we're out of town and the presenters will need to conclude the session. Everyone is welcome to stay behind in the room. Okay, So we'll have informal discussions. So I will be staying around. I don't know how long any other panelists, but thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you have one new idea and that you have some connections with people, and we're willing to give you more ideas if you have anything. So thank you, Brandon, for being our other facilitator.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.